Welcome to Have a Life Teaching, the podcast designed for educators who are dedicated to enhancing their teaching practice and creating a positive impact on their students' lives. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the world of education, exploring a wide range of topics related to curriculum, instruction, and assessment in K-12 schools. Together, we'll learn from the brightest minds in the education field. So if you're a passionate educator who's ready to take your teaching practice to the next level, join us as we explore the exciting world of education. My name is John Schembari, signing in and saying, let's have a life teaching. As humans, what really makes us special? What makes the experience of life worth it? To me, that's yes, having a passion and having a purpose in what I do, but it's also about learning and experiencing the world in which I live. And that could come in many forms. As my listeners know on the Have a Life Teaching podcast, we spend a lot of time talking about core academics. We haven't spent as much time talking about those extracurriculars and helping students to gain an interest and a passion in what makes life worth living. So tonight, we're going to be talking about performance art and what students can learn from dance. And I'm really excited that we're being joined by Minila Shah. She is the founder of Ajna Dance Company, which is a dance company that works with schools largely in the New York City metro area and brings South Asian dance to schools in the local community. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you walk us through how did this dance company come to be?
Yeah, I grew up learning how to dance. My parents immigrated from India to Canada, where I was born, and to really stay connected to their roots and culture, because they immigrated in the 70s. There wasn't as many South Asians in Canada at the time. So, how can we keep our kids connected to their culture growing up in Canada? And so my mom found an Indian dance class, specifically a Bharatanatyam dance class, which is a South Indian classical dance form, which is not even where my family's from, but we didn't have that many options, and it was one of the larger, more well-known classical dance styles. So I started learning when I was 5. I danced all through my childhood, high school, college, after college. I studied business in college because I never imagined dance as being a career option for me. So I studied business, worked in an office, continued to dance, and then I moved to London for a short period where I met another woman who was running her own Indian dance company that I worked with her and ran her company for her while she traveled, moved to New York, worked again in an office to build a network, save some money, and knew that wasn't my calling. And now that I had this experience in London, I realized that I could pursue this as a career, maybe not as a performer, but as an educator. And so I started Ajna back in 2012. The last 7 or 8 years, I've really focused on arts education and bringing dance into communities and spaces that are just accessible to all. So really bringing culture and movement into schools, libraries, museums. We work with the Barclay Center and the USO. We go where people want dance and culture. And the biggest growth has been in education. And it's something I'm really proud of because I have kids in public school here in New York, and it's a full circle moment for me. I think New York, I always compared it to Latin culture, like whether you're Dominican or Puerto Rican, in Miami, Cuban culture, like that felt more part of American culture. But I think it's changed over the last 20 years. I feel like there's been a huge shift, not just in South Asian culture, but I think many different cultures and representation. You feel it more in all channels, in music and in television and film and theater, and it's everywhere now.
I love that. And now you said you're bringing Ajna to schools and to those public spaces to get people more interested in culture and dance. So, are you finding, to your point, that there is a growing awareness of South Asian or other cultures in New York, on the East Coast of the United States.
And Indian dance is not a monolith because India is such a diverse country. So when I say India, it's tricky because, and even South Asia, there's so much diversity. But I think that we use some folk dance, like folk styles and Bollywood, which is more mainstream, to help bring people in because it's accessible, it's fun. Students of all, people of all abilities, all ages, learning abilities can really partake in this movement style, and it's very joyful. It's happy. It's high energy, gender neutral, and I think people may not understand the language, but the music is really fun and the culture is so colorful. So I think it's just an easy way for people to learn about South Asian culture through the music and the movement, and it's very accessible. So you use your face, you're expressing how you feel through movement. And so I think that kids, they find it fun and they find it easy to do. And they're just really happy and enjoying it. And the parents are watching. And this school doesn't have a huge South Asian population, but it's even more important because in Manhattan, in New York City, where there is so much diversity, that needs to be reflected in our education.
And you were talking just now really about using dance to learn other cultures, and in this case, learning quote unquote Indian culture. But I do understand what you mean about just the huge size of India. But what do you think about either the life skills that students get from dancing or the other learnings that come from dance?
Yeah, I think movement and music are innate to human beings, right? But as we become older and more self-conscious and feel vulnerable putting ourselves out there, but I think one, I think it's natural to people. Two, I think as we know, we are more and more on devices, right? Screens, tablets, laptops, even kids are on these devices more and more. And so doing anything where you're not looking at an electronic device, you're not distracting yourself, there's not those dopamine hits, you're sitting with yourself. And when you dance, it's like a meditation. I really feel you can't be thinking about other things. It brings you present. I think movement helps you know yourself better. I think the way we work with kids, they're working with their classmates, it's teamwork, social emotional expression. You build confidence, right? You build rhythm, physical fitness. It's a release. Movement also just brings you joy. It feels good. So I think there's so many things that students get outside of the cultural learning from being with their bodies and expressing themselves creatively.
And that really resonates with me, Manila, because I swing dance as a hobby. And when you were talking about teamwork and coordination, because if your partner makes a certain move, you have to react to that move. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it's living in the moment. It's the physical movement when we are all too sedentary for our own good. It's that teamwork you mentioned. I love that you mentioned that. What are you finding, or what have you found? Because you've been doing this now, you said since 2012. So you have more than, what is that, 15 years almost of data. What are you finding, or what do you know now about bringing South Asian dance into schools and into youth communities that you didn't know then?
What I learned through my sort of research and diligence was that there were African dance companies bringing different styles. There was Chinese dance, Latin dance, ballroom. I just noticed there was no one really focused on. There were people doing it, but on a smaller scale. And so one, there was a gap. Two, what I realized is that educators, school principals, teachers find what we do valuable. And one of the ways in which they've been bringing our company in is through the holidays and the festivals, which are also a big part of South Asian culture. So typically Diwali in the fall and Holi in the spring, which is something I've noticed the trend of how much more those holidays are celebrated now Diwali is now a New York City, it's a public school holiday. Holi, we work this month alone in March. We've been at, I don't even know if it's over 50 schools celebrating Holi specifically. I didn't realize the appetite for celebrating these holidays, but what I appreciate is schools really wanting to celebrate all the holidays and bring culture through students through celebration but also movement. And my line that I always say is that we don't need a holiday to bring diversity, dance, or culture. It should be happening all year round. But if that is the thing that gets us in the door and allows us to work with your community, we're all for it.
Exactly. Why do you think Holi and Diwali are gaining in popularity or interest here in the States?
I think one, there's just more South Asian representation in terms of people in more high profile or public facing roles, whether that be CEOs of companies or actors. So I think it's just more in out there. There's a really big party that they throw in Manhattan for all the South Asian kind of influencers and people, and that gets in the New York Times. And then it trickles all the way down to just tons of now neighborhood festivals. And I think people know about it. And we know about the Jewish holidays and the Christian holidays that have always been a part of sort of New York fabric. But I think people can resonate with the messaging because Diwali is about celebrating kind of the victory of the light over darkness, right? Like good over evil, like good will prevail. And I think people, that's, you don't have to be Hindu or Sikh or Buddhist to really agree with that. It's more a philosophy and a universal sentiment. And Holi celebrates the spring through throwing these colored powders, which again, there's a message of at the end of the day, no matter what skin color you are or what where you are socioeconomically, we're all the same. And when we put these colors on ourselves, we all look the same. We're celebrating spring, new beginnings. So it's fun, but the themes are really just easy to resonate with and real human themes.
I love that. So now, when you go into a school, is it more presentations or is it you teaching the students how to do the dance moves? Is it a recurring thing? Walk us through what some of your engagements look like.
Yeah, I think one key thing about what we do is it's always participatory. So it's we're bringing people in. So they're not just watching, they're experiencing. So when we lead an assembly, be it for Diwali or Holi or just we have a Dances of India assembly that takes you around different regions and different styles of dance, there will always be a performance element by our educators and teaching artists. There will be some sort of lecture or cultural context sharing. And then we always invite students and faculty and staff and teachers to dance with us. So whether that's learning about different gestures and what they mean, and then we'll play some music and teach them some steps and they'll dance along with us. And then we usually end with a fun Bollywood routine that everyone can get behind because it's fun. So it's always inclusive through participation. And then we work with, so assemblies will come in and we might do 2 or 3 depending on how large the school is and the grade bands. We also do residencies. So those are longer term where we'll work with all the second graders or all the kindergartners or all the 8th graders for anywhere from 6 or 8 weeks to 10 weeks. And each week they'll learn a different style of dance, but they'll also work on a choreography and technique and movement, and it culminates in a performance by the students for family members and their classmates. We also do parent engagement events. Again, this is like fun for families, events like professional development events for staff or teachers. So that's sort of the umbrella, but we really will do whatever a school needs. We're also small enough where we can customize what we do. So if a school is looking for something specific, we'll always try to bring that to them.
Yeah, I love that you're also teaching students the choreography aspect of dance, and students in those residencies are creating their own dance moves within the cultural traditions that you're showing them.
That's right.
So I'm really curious. Let's dig a little bit deeper into your residencies because I'm fascinated by that. What does a successful residency look like at the end of it for you and your team?
So there's the piece that you see on stage, which I think is like the easy one, right? So the kids come on stage, we'll often have costume props or elements, which is always fun. And to see them embrace, enjoy, and really crush like whatever choreography it is. So the one I went to most recently on the Upper West Side, each class presented a different style of dance. So one was like a folk dance from Gujarat, which is my family's from, and it was like Garba. One was like a Bhangra dance, which was like a folk dance from Punjab in the north. One was based on classical Indian dance. So again, they're not learning classical dance in 8 weeks, but they're doing the gestures. They're in the position, which is like a plie, like a squat position. So just to see them do so well in a short amount of time and do it with so much joy and enthusiasm and dedication, that's success. But on the back end, when you ask them, what did you enjoy? They just think it's fun. And we learned about this style, or I understand that this dance is celebrated at this festival, or this story I told. So I think it's a combination of what they present and perform, but also their own lived experience of being welcomed into a culture, or them celebrating their own culture in school, because I think it really validates it too for those South Asian kids. When you see your culture on stage or in a school, it's okay. These are my people, and I'm really proud of this.
And have you gone back to your students after residency to measure the impacts, whatever those impacts might be?
We haven't, but we really should. I think anecdotally, yes, we'll get emails or notes from students, but I think it's a good question that we can even just ask students, how did this impact you? What did you learn, or what did you take away from this?
And the reason partially I'm asking that is because even in a large city, New York, there is still a misunderstanding of different groups. There is still racism. There is still prejudice. And I'd really be curious to know what these young people think about South Asian culture before the experience and then after the experience, even if that's they didn't know anything beforehand and now they know the different regions and the different dances. To me, that would be amazing proof of the validity of what you're doing with students through dance.
Yeah, you've given me a new project to work on. But it's true. We have enough schools and students as data points. So I think that would be an interesting exercise. And honestly, it would make me really happy to actually hear the impact that we're having.
You mentioned different styles of dance. What are the different styles and how do they compare and contrast from one with one another?
So I will give you a quick rundown. Five, because there's so many. But in India, each state is almost like a country. So before the British, they were all just different states. And so if I always explain it, it's like Italy versus France versus Greece. It's Europe, but they all have their own language, they have their own food. They all have a piazza or some sort of cathedral in the town square, but it's different. And so another example I give is where my family's from versus my husband's family. He's also of Indian descent. It's different language, different food, different outfits, different religion. So different music, different dance. And so when we do our Dances of India residency, we talk about classical dance, folk dance, and then Bollywood dance. So classical dance is like ballet, right? So Bharatanatyam I mentioned, Kathak is another one. There's Kuchipudi. There's 8 of them. There's Kathakali. And so these dance styles, they're classical in that there is a pedagogy, there is a system through which you learn and you gradually progress. You need to have a very experienced guru or teacher who can teach this to you. You can't self-teach these styles. And you have to learn for years and years to master these dance styles. They're physically rigorous, they're technical, they're graceful, but you need to train in them for many years. You can't just go to a class once and do it. You have to really learn over time with a teacher. The folk dance styles are like dances of the people. So these are dances that you or I may have to learn if we're not from that region, but if you grew up in that part, you might have grown up doing this at weddings, at parties, what you do. And there's many folk dance styles, and they're all very different. The two classical dance styles I mentioned, Kathak is from the north and Bharatanatyam is from the south. And they could not be more different. One is grounded, the costumes are completely different, the movements, the makeup, the jewelry, it's like completely different. And at Kathak in the north, you wear a much looser, longer, flowing outfit. Your makeup looks different. The facial expressions are different. The gestures are all different. So they're completely different. So if you do one, it's almost really hard to learn the other because now if you're a ballet dancer and you want to move to hip hop or jazz, it's difficult to unlearn how you move. And then Bollywood, we end with that because it's not really a dance style, but it's based on the music from the films. And the films are all influenced by pop culture, which is mostly American pop culture. So when it was the 70s, or if it was disco era, it would sound like disco. If it was flapper era, it sounded like that. When it was pop music. So it really is influenced by what's happening in the West and in pop culture. And that is a good way that we can bring people in, but then also teach them about all these other kinds of dance.
Now, are there any really popular Bollywood dances that the kids ask you to do over and over again? What are the top five hits when it
Oh,
comes to South Asian dance?
that's a tough one. I feel like anything influenced by Bhangra, which has become really popular globally, and there's musicians that go on world tours. So a lot of Bollywood music is influenced by Punjabi music. And so those dances are probably the ones that are most requested or most fun. Similarly, in South India, there's a whole genre of music. So I think both North and South, because they're high energy and fun. And then there's one about sunglasses and one about a chicken. Things that are themed for kids are always fun. Or
I
like
love that.
animals. There's an animal. It also depends on the age. Because once you get to middle school, they want to be cool.
Speaking of that, the other question I'm really curious about is, do you have equal participation and interest from boys and girls? What does that look like?
I would say for the most part, yes. Because we select music and movement styles that are really just non gendered. And the truth is, kids, when they're young, they don't really think in terms of boy and girl, right? Like they just want to dance. So I feel like it's so easy with 3K, pre K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I would say it starts to feel more that way, I would say, after fourth grade. But even then, I feel like the boys participate equal to the girls.
Oh, I
Sometimes
love
like
that.
more enthusiastic.
Yeah, oh, that's great to hear. So now you keep coming back to, and I want to talk about this for a minute or two, the connection to music, the connection to folk tales and culture. How have you ever had an opportunity to bring in musicians along with your dancing, or how do you turn dance into storytelling if you do? What does that look like? Walk me through some of the interdisciplinary connections, if you will.
Yeah. It's nice because most of the music that we use is recorded music, but they're all songs, excuse me, that tell a story. So already that's part of the dance. So whether it's a guy drinking lassi and wearing this very traditional South Indian skirt, and so you start to act it out, or there's so many love stories, but we can put our own twist on those, and it can mean whatever we want it to mean. We often will bring in a drummer, a dholi. A dhol is like a large drum that comes from Punjab. It's a double barreled drum that you use two sticks to play. And so when we're asked to bring live music with what we do in the schools specifically, the dhol is it's so infectious. It's like one of my favorite instruments. You hear it and you will want to move your body. It doesn't matter if you're a dancer, South Asian or not. It just is captivating. And then these drummers are so skilled, the jolis are so talented, and the rhythms are so natural to your body and movement. Often, when we are able to bring in a musician, that will be our go to because it just enhances that experience for all the participants or the people watching and or dancing.
I love that. And now, do you do anything different for the different grade levels? What does your programming look like, say, in high school or middle school versus elementary school?
We can just get a little deeper with older students, tackle a more complex subject matter. We've done a workshop on social justice through hand gestures of how to tell a story or share messaging through just your gestures and face. And we can challenge them with choreography, with movement, kind of repertoire. So we adjust by grade and then we just push a little harder. We can go a little deeper. We developed some programming for New York City teachers, this program called Hidden Voices, which was materials that teachers could use. But we delved into the South Asian diaspora because, of course, there's South Asian immigrants who came to America, but there's also South Asians who went to the Caribbean. And then they have their own culture and music that's influenced by Caribbean culture and South Asian cultures. And they also celebrate Diwali and Holi, but the music's different and the dancing's different. And it's like it's its own thing. And then we have South Asians who came to the UK and they really created this type of music that didn't exist before, that was Punjabi music, but really made it mainstream. And then you have South Asians who went to Africa and then they came here. Quite nuanced if you dig deep. There's a lot that we can cover, but we wouldn't do that with a third grade class.
Yeah. Even too, as you continue to grow, the connections with writing I see as being very strong as well.
Yeah.
Really talking about those differences even within the diaspora. What have we not talked about that you think it's important that our listeners know?
What have we not talked about? I think that living in New York, we keep saying at this time, but I feel it really is the time that we need things that unite us, right? That unite us, that make us feel we are not different from one another. We are the same. And I think the younger that we're exposed to culture and differences, we're not afraid of it because it's not scary, because it's not othered. It's us. And oh, you grew up dancing to salsa music at your grandma's house. Oh, I grew up dancing to this at the parties we went to. And so we all want to belong. And I just think we have to break barriers. And art is the only way I feel that we can all have this human connection and feel like we belong and feel we're not that different from each other.
Agreed, agreed. One other question I have for you, and then I'll ask you where people can find you. I know you do a lot of your work in New York. I know you do residencies in New York and you do the workshops as well, those one-off workshops, largely in the New York area, but do you go to other cities in the United States and do this work?
We will travel. To be honest, there's just so much to do here that I haven't had the capacity to intentionally grow outside of the Northeast. We went to the Bahamas for a gig and we'll do things. We were in Oklahoma for a really cool arts intensive last summer. So yes, we'll travel, but our focus is here because this is home base and there's just so much to do here. If I could say, oh yeah, we got New York covered, but there's so much in New York and we're in Westchester, we'll go out to Long Island, we'll go to Jersey too. The tri-state is where the most of our work is, but we're open and we would love to grow and go other places too.
Ah, that's great to hear. And now that you answered that, now I know another question I want to ask. So let's say there is someone in Chicago or Los Angeles that wants to create a culturally defined dance company. What advice would you give them in starting this type of initiative?
Just understanding what you want to share and give, right? And building programming around that intentionally. So I think it took me a long time to get here, but then really understanding what is it that I want to do? Who do I want to serve? What is the best way to reach these people? And what is the programming I can do to support whatever learning it is or outcome that I want? And I think just being intentional and going for it. I think anything, you just got to do it.
So now, where can people find out more information about you and the work you do?
We are online, of course. Our website is ajnadance.com. So that's AJNA dance.com. We're on Instagram at Ajna Dance, Facebook at Ajna Dance. We're on YouTube. So any of those places, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to work with you. We would love to bring South Asian dance and culture and movement and joy to your communities. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you came back to dance. I'm glad we didn't lose you to the business world forever.
I am so grateful. I feel it was in my path to not be sitting behind a desk forever. I knew it wasn't going to be the thing that I would do forever. So I am also really grateful that life brought me this way. All the mentors and teachers and people that came before me that gave me chances, that took a chance on me, trained me, hired me. I think it's always that being grateful because nothing just happens. And I want to pay it forward.
Oh, I'm glad you are. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening today. I hope you got some great tips that you can bring back into your teaching. Remember, have a life teaching without sacrificing your own. Also, don't forget to subscribe and be well.